Hi, so this is our video for documents E and F. Both of these are illustrated videos, illustrated documents. And so you're going to have to analyze the picture some. So for document E, we see that this is from the Greek world, which was written in 1987. So this was not during the time of the Athenian assembly. This is a secondary source. There are four text boxes that give information. So the first text box in the upper left-hand corner, this talks about where and how often the Athenian assembly met. Our second text box on the top right talks about who could be a citizen and how many were needed for votes to count. The third text box, bottom left, talks about how the assembly chose its leadership and how people were able to get positions and jobs in the assembly. And our fourth text box talks about some of their responsibilities. So if we look here, the Athenian assembly met 40 times a year on a hillside called Pnyx near the Acropolis. The site had excellent acoustics. So if we think about this, the part that's really important is this first part about how they met and where they met. The acoustics really isn't important for the idea of citizenship. When we look at box number 2, all, and that's going to be important, of Athens' 40,000 citizens were eligible to attend, though travel made that difficult. 6,000 were necessary for quorum on important issues such as ostracism. So I circled two words here. And it's going to be very clear, I think, why these words are important when we get to the questions. But a quorum, for those of you that don't know, is the minimum number of people for a decision to be made or for a meeting to be official. So the quorum was a number that they had to have in order to say, yep, the vote counted. And that's 6,000 people. Our third text box, Athenians chose their officials, including the Council of 500, which was an executive committee that oversaw the assembly, by lot from the general citizenry. So general citizenry, remember the general citizenry, that's the 40,000 citizens, okay? So these two things are connected. And finally, the assembly passed laws, set budgets, and had the power to declare war. Again, these were some of the jobs the assembly had. Okay, so let's take a look at the questions that you're going to need to answer to analyze this document, keeping those things in mind. So the first question, what percent of adult male citizens in Athens could vote in the assembly? What percent were eligible to become members of the smaller Council of 500? So the reason I circle this word eligible is because it's very important. Remember, eligible doesn't mean that they did it. It just means they could. So the second question is really asking what percent of Athenian citizens could be chosen by lot to be in the Council of 500. Okay. So that eligible really changes the meaning of this sentence in this word. So make sure you keep that in mind. Question number 2. Judging by the illustration and the quorum requirements, what generalization can you make about the attendance of Athenian citizens at an assembly meeting? And so I put a little note here to think about the number of people needed for a decision, right? 6,000 people. That's a lot of people. And then also put, and if the picture looks full. So when you look at this picture, does it look like it's a crowded area or does it look like there's just a couple of people there? I think this looks like it's a very crowded area. And the way the artist drew this picture, it looks like there are even more people coming. You get the feeling that more people are coming in and entering because of the way they used the edges to show like parts of people to make it seem like people are still walking in, right? So if we are trying to put those two things together, that's where you're going to get your decision on if you think there was high attendance or not. Question 3. What does it mean that the Council of 500 was chosen by lot? Was that a good idea? So there are two questions here. The first part of the question, what does it mean that the Council of 500 was chosen by lot? If you don't remember what by lot means, you can look here, but you can also look in document B. That will help you out if you look at document B. For this first part of the question, there is a definite correct answer. The second part, was that a good idea? Well, that's an opinion question. So for the second part, it's how well you support your opinion. There is no right or wrong answer for the second part of this question. First part, there is a correct answer. Second part, it's an opinion. There's not a correct answer. And finally, question number 4. Assume that the scene in the drawing is reasonably accurate. Does it strengthen or weaken an argument that Athens had a better system of citizenship than Rome? Explain. So again, some things to think about when you see the picture. How many different groups do you see in here? How many different social classes? How many different ethnicities or things like that do you see? How many different genders? Who could be a citizen in ancient Rome or in ancient Athens? Okay, so you want to keep all that in mind as you try to decide um, if it strengthens or weakens the argument for citizenship. So once again, that is document E. Once you have completed document E, remember you can go to the Google slide to double check your work.